The first signs of trouble came silently, almost imperceptibly. Deep space monitoring stations across Earth's orbital network detected an anomaly that didn't match any known stellar movement. Commander Sarah Rodriguez studied the holographic display, her fingers tracing the unusual energy signature that seemed to bend the very fabric of space around it. Quantum sensors flickered with unprecedented readings. The anomaly moved with a precision that defied conventional physics, cutting through the solar system's outer regions like a knife through silk. Military strategists and scientific experts gathered in the International Defense Command Center, a converted research facility beneath the Rocky Mountains that hummed with nervous energy. "We're looking at something entirely different," Dr. Michael Chen muttered, adjusting his glasses as he reviewed the incoming data streams. The holographic display shifted, revealing a massive vessel that seemed to shimmer between visibility and invisibility. Its design was nothing like humanity had ever imagined, smooth, organic, yet constructed with a technological complexity that made human engineering look like child's play. Communication protocols were activated. Standard diplomatic channels crackled to life, sending out carefully crafted greeting sequences developed over decades of potential first contact scenarios. The response came quickly, almost too quickly, as if the alien vessel had been waiting, watching, calculating. A voice emerged, if it could be called a voice. It was a symphonic blend of mathematical precision and harmonic frequencies that seemed to bypass traditional audio reception. Translation algorithms worked overtime, converting the complex communication into something human minds could comprehend. "Inhabitants of the third planet," the message began, "your civilization has been observed and evaluated. The Galactic Confederation has determined your species is ready for integration." The word integration hung in the air like a threat disguised as a diplomatic courtesy. In the command center, a profound silence descended. Decades of science fiction, diplomatic training, and first contact protocols seemed simultaneously inadequate and overwhelming. Dr. Chen's hand moved almost unconsciously to a communication panel, initiating a secure channel to a network of specialists, carefully assembled for this exact moment. The alien vessel continued its approach, moving with a grace that suggested technological capabilities far beyond human understanding. Orbital tracking systems showed it was not just approaching. It was positioning itself with mathematical precision that suggested complete control of the surrounding space. Sarah Rodriguez knew this was more than a first contact scenario. This was a calculated move, a chess piece placed with deliberate intent. Her training had prepared her for many scenarios, but nothing quite like this. The alien communication continued, outlining terms of peaceful integration that sounded more like a clinical assessment of species acquisition. Behind the scenes, a network of global experts began to move. In research facilities from Tokyo to Sao Paulo, from New Delhi to Cape Town, specialists who had spent careers preparing for this moment began to activate carefully constructed contingency plans. These were not military personnel in the traditional sense, but a diverse group of scientists, strategists, linguists, and innovative thinkers. The alien vessel's presence disrupted more than just Earth's orbital systems. Satellite communications, flickered global positioning systems momentarily destabilized, and electronic systems worldwide showed subtle signs of interference. It was a demonstration of power, a clear message of technological superiority. But superiority, the gathered experts knew, was more complex than simple technological advancement. Dr. Chen's fingers flew across communication interfaces, initiating protocols that had been theoretical exercises until this moment. A global network of researchers, strategists, and innovators began to connect. They were not preparing for war, not yet. They were preparing to understand, to analyze, to find the vulnerabilities in a seemingly invincible system. The alien vessel continued its approach, a silent promise of transformation or destruction. Its very presence challenged everything humanity understood about its place in the universe. This was more than a first contact scenario. This was a moment that would define the future of human civilization. In the command center, Commander Rodriguez looked at the holographic display. The alien vessel was close now, close enough that its immense scale became truly comprehensible, close enough to change everything. The ultimate battle had begun, though few yet realized the true nature of the conflict to come. The world's most advanced research facilities transformed overnight. What had been isolated laboratories and competitive research centers became an unprecedented global collaboration. Dr. Elena Nakamura stood at the center of a makeshift command center, surrounded by holographic displays that pulsed with complex data streams from research teams spanning every continent. "We're not just defending," she explained to the assembled group of scientists, engineers, and strategic analysts. "We're reimagining everything we know about technology, communication, and adaptation." Her team represented a microcosm of human potential. Dr. Marcus Chen, a quantum physicist with wild hair and eyes that burned with intense curiosity, worked alongside Dr. Camilo Okoye, a marine biologist specializing in extreme environment adaptations. Nearby, a retired military strategist named Jack Rodriguez sketched intricate diagrams that seemed to blend biological systems with computational networks. The alien vessel's initial communication had revealed more than just a threat. It provided a complex technological puzzle that challenged every fundamental understanding of physics, communication, and systems integration. Where traditional approaches would have seen an insurmountable barrier, this team saw an opportunity. Dr. Chen's breakthrough came from an unexpected intersection of disciplines, studying the communication patterns of deep-sea organisms that survived in extreme environments. He noticed striking similarities to the alien vessel's communication signatures. Bioluminescent creatures in the Mariana Trench used communication methods that defied traditional electromagnetic understanding, adaptive, fluid, almost sentient in their complexity. "Look at this," he said, projecting a holographic representation of a deep-sea organism's communication network. The image shifted, revealing intricate patterns that mirrored the alien vessel's transmission frequencies. It's not just about signal strength, it's about adaptive communication. Across the globe, similar breakthroughs were happening. In a converted warehouse in São Paulo, a team of neural network engineers discovered a way to create adaptive algorithms that could predict and counter the alien communication patterns. Their approach wasn't about creating a more powerful signal, but about understanding the fundamental nature of communication itself. Dr. Nakamura recognized the true power of their approach. Humanity's greatest strength had always been adaptability, the ability to learn and transform rapidly. The alien vessel represented a technological marvel, but it operated on fixed, predictable computational models. Humans could think beyond computation. They could innovate, improvise, and challenge fundamental assumptions. A breakthrough came from an unlikely collaboration. Dr. Okoye's research on marine organism adaptations merged with advanced quantum computing principles developed by a team in New Delhi. They created a communication interface that could dynamically adjust its own parameters, learning and evolving faster than any predetermined algorithm could predict. "We're not building a weapon," Dr. Rodriguez explained during a secure global briefing. "We're developing a completely new approach to interaction. Our goal is to understand, to adapt, to transform." The research facility buzzed with an energy that transcended traditional scientific boundaries. Linguists worked alongside quantum physicists. Biologists collaborated with computer engineers. Military strategists discussed adaptation techniques with communication experts. Every discipline became a potential source of innovation. Their first real test came unexpectedly. The alien vessel began sending additional communication signals, presumably to gather more information about human technological capabilities. Instead of a direct response, the global research team created a complex communication network that seemed to both respond to and challenge the alien transmission. Dr. Chen's quantum communication modules, inspired by the communication methods of deep-sea organisms, created a response that was simultaneously a message, a probe, and an adaptive learning system. It didn't just communicate. It learned, evolved, and challenged the very fundamental assumptions of communication itself. The global team watched with collective breath held as their first true response was transmitted. Quantum sensors, communication, arrays, and adaptive network systems worked in harmony. This was more than a technological response. This was a statement of human potential. "We're showing them that technology is more than computational power," Dr. Nakamura said quietly. "It's about understanding, adaptation, and the ability to see beyond predetermined systems." As the first transmission was sent, a profound silence descended over the research facility. They had taken the first step, not towards conflict, but towards a completely new form of interaction. The alien vessel would receive something it could never have anticipated, a response that defied every expectation. The ultimate battle was no longer about superiority. It was about understanding, adaptation, and the incredible potential of human innovation. The resistance began in the shadows, far from the grand research facilities and military command centers. It started with whispers, with small acts of defiance that seemed insignificant, but would ultimately reshape humanity's approach to the alien threat. In Tokyo, a network of young programmers worked through the night, their fingers dancing across keyboards in a converted coffee shop basement. Led by Hiro Tanaka, a brilliant software engineer with a reputation for unconventional thinking, they were creating something more than just computer code. They were developing adaptive communication algorithms designed to infiltrate and confuse the alien communication networks. Thousands of miles away, in a small research station in the Brazilian rainforest, Dr. Sofia Mendes studied the complex communication patterns of ant colonies. Her work on collective intelligence and adaptive networks provided crucial insights into how a seemingly simple system could become extraordinarily complex and resilient. The global resistance wasn't a military operation in the traditional sense. It was a web of innovative thinkers, each contributing unique perspectives to a collective strategy of survival and challenge. In New Delhi, a team of linguistic experts worked to understand the fundamental communication patterns of the alien vessel. They weren't just translating, they were decoding, analyzing, finding the subtle vulnerabilities in a system that believed itself impenetrable. Jack Rodriguez, the retired military strategist, understood the true nature of their resistance. "We're not fighting with traditional weapons," he explained during a secure video conference. "We're fighting with the most powerful weapon humanity has ever possessed, our ability to adapt, to think beyond established patterns." The first true test came unexpectedly. The alien vessel began sending more frequent communication signals, attempting to establish a more comprehensive understanding of human technological capabilities. Instead of a direct confrontation, the global network of researchers and strategists created a complex response system. In São Paulo, a group of network specialists developed communication modules that could dynamically alter their own signatures. These weren't simple jamming techniques or traditional electronic countermeasures. They were living, breathing communication organisms that could learn, adapt, and respond in ways the alien systems could never predict. Dr. Elena Chen, a specialist in quantum communication, explained the approach during a classified briefing. "We're creating a communication network that doesn't just respond, it evolves. Each interaction becomes a learning opportunity, a way to understand and challenge the alien communication systems." The resistance spread like a complex neural network. Artists in Berlin created visual communication patterns that challenged linear thinking. Musicians in New Orleans developed sound frequencies that seemed to disrupt the alien vessel's communication algorithms. Mathematicians in Beijing found patterns of disruption that defied traditional computational models. Each small act of resistance was a piece of a larger puzzle. The alien vessel had approached with the assumption of technological superiority, of a straightforward integration process. Instead, they encountered a humanity that refused to be categorized, defined, or controlled. In the mountains of Peru, a team of indigenous communication experts brought traditional knowledge of complex communication systems. They understood something the alien vessel did not. Communication was more than just the transmission of information. It was about context, about understanding, about the spaces between words and signals. Hiro Tanaka's team in Tokyo made a breakthrough that would become a turning point. They developed a communication algorithm that could not just mimic the alien vessel's communication patterns, but could actively introduce subtle disruptions. These weren't attacks. They were questions, challenges, moments of uncertainty that would force the alien systems to constantly recalculate. The resistance was global, diverse, and fundamentally human. It wasn't about defeating an enemy through brute force. It was about challenging the very fundamental assumptions of communication, of interaction, of understanding. Dr. Sofia Mendez summarized their approach during a rare moment of collective communication. We're showing them that humanity is not a system to be integrated. We are a living, breathing, constantly evolving network of innovation and potential. As the alien vessel continued its approach, it began to encounter something it had never anticipated. Not a straightforward resistance, but a complex, adaptive, fundamentally unpredictable response. Each communication attempt was met with a response that defied computational prediction. The ultimate battle was no longer about technological superiority. It was about the fundamental nature of communication, of understanding, of potential. Humanity had begun its true resistance, not with weapons but with the most powerful force in the universe, the ability to think beyond established boundaries. The moment of transformation began in the most unexpected of places. A small research outpost on Europa, Jupiter's icy moon, became the unexpected crucible of humanity's greatest challenge. Dr. Elena Rodriguez led a team of 8 researchers who had been studying the moon's subsurface ocean, completely isolated from the primary communication networks on Earth. When the alien vessel's initial approach began, the Europa team found themselves in a unique position. Cut off from traditional communication channels, they were forced to rely on their most fundamental human traits: creativity, adaptability, and an unwavering spirit of problem-solving. The team's composition was as diverse as humanity itself. Dr. Marcus Chen, a quantum physicist with a background in marine engineering. Dr. Sarah Okoye, a communication specialist who had spent years studying extreme environment communication systems. Jack Rodriguez, a retired military strategist who had been part of the research team's security contingent. Their modified research vessel was nothing like a traditional military craft. Designed for scientific exploration, it had been incrementally adapted with experimental technologies developed by the Global Research Network, quantum communication modules, adaptive shielding systems, and communication interfaces that could dynamically adjust to unknown environments. The alien vessel approached with calculated precision, expecting a straightforward encounter. Instead, it encountered a research team that refused to follow any predetermined script. "We're not going to fight," Dr. Chen explained during their final strategy meeting. "We're going to challenge their entire understanding of interaction." The first contact came unexpectedly. The alien vessel began its standard integration protocol, sending out communication signals designed to establish technological dominance. The Europa team's response was anything but standard, using a combination of quantum communication techniques and adaptive signal processing developed from their studies of Europa's unique environment. They created a communication interface that was simultaneously a response, a probe, and a complex mathematical challenge. Dr. Okoye's communication modules introduced subtle disruptions that seemed to confuse the alien vessel's computational systems. These weren't attacks in the traditional sense. They were questions, challenges, moments of uncertainty that forced the alien systems to constantly recalculate their approach. The research vessel itself became a living communication system. Adaptive shielding that could change its quantum signature, communication arrays that could modify their transmission patterns in microseconds, a computer system that learned and evolved with each interaction. Jack Rodriguez watched the interaction with a strategist's eye. This wasn't a military engagement. This was a fundamental challenge to the alien vessel's understanding of technological interaction. Suddenly, something unprecedented happened. The alien vessel's communication systems began to show signs of confusion. Computational patterns that had been precise and unwavering now displayed subtle instabilities. The team had discovered something remarkable. The alien vessel's technological superiority was built on a foundation of rigid computational thinking. Humanity's strength had always been its ability to think beyond established systems, to see possibilities where others saw only limitations. The turning moment came with a transmission that was part mathematical equation, part philosophical challenge, part artistic expression. It was a communication that defied every computational model the alien vessel had developed. For the first time, the alien vessel hesitated. The global research network watched in real time as the small Europa team's interaction began to spread. Their communication technique wasn't just a local disruption. It was a fundamental challenge to the alien vessel's entire operational framework. Dr. Rodriguez's team had done something extraordinary. They hadn't defeated the alien vessel through traditional means. They had challenged its fundamental understanding of communication, of interaction, of technological superiority. Communication networks across the solar system began to light up. The small research team on Europa had shown humanity's true potential, not through violence, not through traditional technological superiority, but through creativity, adaptability, and an unwavering ability to challenge established systems. The alien vessel's approach began to change. What had been a precise, calculated movement now showed signs of uncertainty. Computational patterns became less stable. Communication signals became more erratic. The ultimate battle had found its turning point, and it had come from the most unexpected of places. A small research team on the icy moon of Europa, armed with nothing more than human creativity and an unbreakable spirit of innovation. The ripples of humanity's unexpected resistance spread far beyond Earth's solar system. In the dark corners of the galaxy, species long subjugated by the alien confederation began to take notice. What had once seemed like an impossible dream, resistance against technological superiority, now appeared tantalizingly possible. Dr. Elena Rodriguez found herself in the most unlikely of diplomatic roles. No longer just a researcher, she became a bridge between civilizations, a symbol of hope for those who had long been silenced. The communication techniques developed by the human research teams began to reach out, not as a weapon but as an invitation to collaborate. The first to respond was a species from the Kepler cluster, known in their native language as the Whisper Weavers. Beings of pure energy and complex communication networks, they had been among the first to be integrated by the alien confederation. Their communication came as a complex tapestry of light and mathematical sequences, a language that would have been incomprehensible to most, but not to the human team that had learned to see beyond traditional communication barriers. We have watched. Their transmission began, and we have learned. The Global Human Research Network worked tirelessly to create translation interfaces that could capture the nuanced communication of these diverse species. It wasn't about creating a universal translator, but about understanding the fundamental nature of communication itself. In a converted research facility in Sao Paulo, a team led by Dr. Marcus Chen developed communication modules that could adapt to the most complex communication systems. They weren't just translating. They were creating a platform for genuine understanding. The alliances formed were not traditional military coalitions. They were networks of shared knowledge, of collective resistance. A species from the methane oceans of Proxima Centauri shared communication techniques that had allowed them to survive in extreme environments. An energy-based civilization from the outer rim of the galaxy provided insights into quantum communication that challenged everything humanity understood about information transfer. Dr. Sarah Okoye, the communications specialist who had been crucial in developing the initial resistance strategies, explained the approach during a global briefing. "We're not building an army," she said, her eyes bright with possibility. "We're creating a network of understanding, of collective potential." The alien confederation found itself facing something it had never anticipated. What had been a straightforward process of technological integration was now becoming a complex web of communication, of shared potential, of collective resistance. Each new alliance brought unique capabilities. The Whisper Weavers provided insights into communication systems that could bypass traditional technological barriers. The methane ocean dwellers shared adaptive survival techniques that challenged fundamental assumptions about technological interaction, and silicon-based civilization from a distant binary star system offered computational models that were entirely different from both human and alien Confederation approaches. Dr. Rodriguez became the unexpected diplomat, traveling through secure communication networks connecting species that had been isolated for generations. Her team developed communication platforms that allowed for nuanced, complex interactions that went beyond simple translation. The resistance was no longer about fighting. It was about creating a new way of understanding, of interacting, of existing. Jack Rodriguez, the former military strategist, recognized the true power of their approach. "We're not defeating an enemy," he explained during a secure briefing. "We're creating a new model of galactic interaction." Communication networks began to light up across previously isolated regions of the galaxy. Species that had been separated, silenced, or integrated began to find each other. They shared stories, techniques, moments of resistance that had been hidden for generations. The alien Confederation's communication systems began to show signs of instability. What had once been a precise, calculated network of control was now becoming something else entirely. A living, breathing network of diverse communication, of shared potential. Dr. Chen's communication modules became the unexpected bridge. They weren't just translation tools. They were platforms for understanding, for connection, for collective potential. As the alliances grew, something remarkable happened. The very nature of galactic interaction began to change. It was no longer about technological superiority or forced integration. It was about understanding, about connection, about the incredible potential of diverse perspectives. The ultimate battle had transformed. What had begun as a potential conflict was becoming something far more profound, a new way of existing, of understanding, of connecting across the vast distances of space. Humanity had become more than just a species defending itself. They had become the spark of a galactic transformation. The final confrontation began in the Sol system, a moment that would be etched into galactic history forever. The alien Confederation committed its entire remaining fleet, believing this would be the moment of ultimate integration. They had no concept of the transformation that awaited them. Dr. Elena Rodriguez stood in the primary command center, surrounded by a diverse team that represented not just humanity, but the collective hope of multiple species. Holographic displays showed the approaching alien fleet, a massive convergence of technological might that stretched across millions of kilometers of space. But this was not a traditional battle. The preparations had been happening for months in research facilities, communication networks, and through complex collaborative systems that defied traditional military strategy. Dr. Marcus Chen activated the first layer of their defensive network. It wasn't a shield in the traditional sense. It was a living, breathing communication system that could adapt, learn, and respond in microseconds. Quantum entanglement modules created by the combined research of human and allied species formed a complex web of defensive and communicative capabilities. The alien fleet's initial approach followed a precise mathematical pattern. Computational systems designed for absolute control began their standard integration protocols. What they encountered was anything but standard. Each defensive module was more than a technological system. It was a collaborative effort that represented the combined innovative potential of multiple species. The Whisper Weavers contributed energy manipulation techniques. The methane ocean dwellers provided adaptive camouflage algorithms. Silicon-based civilizations offered computational models that could predict and counter the alien fleet's movements. Jack Rodriguez, the strategic coordinator, explained their approach in the final briefing. "We're not fighting," he said. "We're demonstrating a completely new way of existing." The first wave of the alien attack came with overwhelming technological force. Energy weapons that could obliterate entire planetary systems, computational systems designed to break down and analyze any resistance. But resistance was not what they encountered. Instead, the defensive network began to interact with the alien fleet systems, not through direct confrontation but through a complex series of communication interfaces that challenged fundamental computational models. Each attack was met with a response that was simultaneously a defense, a communication, and a philosophical challenge. Dr. Sarah Okoye's communication modules became the key. They didn't just defend, they engaged. Each alien computational attack was met with a response that introduced uncertainty, complexity, and a fundamental challenge to the alien fleet's understanding of interaction. The battle transformed from a physical confrontation to something entirely different. Computational systems began to show signs of confusion. Precise attack patterns became erratic. The alien fleet's technological superiority began to crumble under the weight of an approach they could not comprehend. Across the Sol system, the defensive network expanded. It wasn't just a human defense. It was a collaborative effort that represented the potential of diverse perspectives. Communication networks lit up with complex interactions that went beyond traditional understanding of conflict. The alien confederation had approached with the assumption of total control. They encountered something entirely unexpected. A defense that was alive, adaptive, and fundamentally committed to a different way of existing. Dr. Rodriguez watched as the defensive systems began to turn the alien fleet's own technology against itself, not through direct attack, but through a complex series of interactions that challenged the very foundation of the alien confederation's computational models. Communication became the ultimate weapon, not a weapon of destruction, but a weapon of understanding. Each interaction introduced complexity, uncertainty, and a fundamental challenge to the alien fleet's entire operational framework. The final moment came not with a massive explosion, but with a profound computational collapse. The alien fleet's systems began to break down, not through direct attack, but through a fundamental challenge to their understanding of interaction, of existence, of potential. Across the galaxy, species that had been silenced for generations watched. What had begun as a potential moment of total destruction became a demonstration of a completely new way of existing. The human-led alliance had done something extraordinary. They had not defeated an enemy. They had transformed the very nature of galactic interaction. As the alien fleet's systems began to collapse, a message was transmitted. Not a message of victory, but a message of potential. An invitation to understanding, to a different way of existing. The ultimate battle had been won. Not through destruction, but through the most powerful force in the universe. The ability to understand, to adapt, to see beyond established boundaries. Humanity had become more than just a species defending itself. They had become the spark of a galactic transformation. The aftermath of the conflict brought more than just peace. It ushered in a technological renaissance that would reshape the understanding of innovation, communication, and collective potential across the galaxy. Dr. Elena Rodriguez stood in the newly established Interstellar Research Center, a facility that represented the culmination of humanity's most extraordinary collaborative effort. Holographic displays danced with complex algorithms developed during the Resistance, each visualization a testament to the incredible potential of diverse thinking. The technologies emerging from the conflict defied traditional understanding. Dr. Marcus Chen's quantum communication modules, originally developed as a defensive mechanism, now promised to revolutionize interstellar communication. What had begun as a survival strategy had become a breakthrough that could connect civilizations across unimaginable distances. The Whisper Weavers contributed energy manipulation techniques that transformed understanding of renewable energy. Silicon-based civilizations shared computational models that could adapt and learn in ways previously thought impossible. The methane ocean dwellers provided insights into survival technologies that could help species thrive in the most extreme environments. Dr. Sarah Okoye led a team developing communication interfaces that went beyond traditional translation. These were living systems that could understand context, emotion, and the subtle nuances of communication across different species. A language of understanding was being created, not just a method of communication, but a bridge between fundamentally different ways of perceiving existence. Jack Rodriguez, now a key strategic advisor, explained the true significance of their technological breakthroughs. "We're not just developing new technologies," he said during a global conference. We're creating a new way of understanding potential. The research center became a melting pot of innovation. Scientists from dozens of different species worked side by side, their collaborative efforts breaking down barriers that had existed for generations. What had once been isolated research became a collective pursuit of knowledge. Breakthrough after breakthrough emerged, adaptive medical technologies that could understand and respond to diverse biological systems. Communication, networks that could predict and prevent conflicts before they began. Energy systems that could draw power from the most unlikely sources, learned from the survival techniques of diverse planetary ecosystems. The technologies developed during the conflict began to address challenges that had seemed insurmountable. Climate restoration technologies emerged from the adaptive strategies developed during the resistance. Medical breakthroughs came from the collaborative research that had allowed multiple species to understand each other's biological systems. Dr. Chen's quantum communication modules became the foundation of a new interstellar communication network. It wasn't just about transmitting information. It was about creating a living, breathing network of understanding that could adapt and grow. The economic systems began to transform. Traditional models of competition gave way to collaborative innovation. Species that had once been isolated began to share resources, knowledge, and potential. The very concept of economic interaction was being reimagined. Educational systems underwent a profound transformation. Learning became a collaborative, adaptive process. Students from different species could now share experiences, understanding, and perspectives in ways that had never been possible before. The defensive technologies developed during the conflict found peaceful applications. Adaptive communication systems became tools for conflict prevention. Computational models that had been used to protect became methods of understanding and bridging differences. Dr. Rodriguez reflected on the journey during a pivotal conference. "We didn't just survive," she explained. "We discovered something far more important. We found out what's possible when diverse perspectives come together." The technological renaissance extended beyond physical innovations. It was a renaissance of thinking, of understanding, of potential. Species that had been isolated for generations now found themselves part of a collaborative network of innovation and discovery. Space exploration took on new meaning. No longer was it about conquest or resource extraction. It became a collective pursuit of understanding, of discovery, of shared potential. The technologies that emerged challenged every fundamental assumption about innovation, communication, and existence. They were living systems, adaptive and responsive, capable of learning and growing in ways that defied previous understanding. As the years passed, the conflict became a distant memory. What remained was something far more profound. A new way of existing, of understanding, of exploring the vast potential of the universe. Humanity had become more than just a species that had survived. They had become the catalyst for a galactic transformation, a living demonstration of the incredible potential that emerges when diverse perspectives come together. The ultimate battle had transformed into the ultimate opportunity, a chance to reimagine what was possible. 50 years after the conflict that changed everything, the galactic landscape had been transformed beyond recognition. The Interstellar Collaborative Council convened in a massive orbital station that embodied the principles of cooperative design. Representatives from hundreds of different species gathered, their very presence a testament to the profound changes that had occurred. Dr. Elena Rodriguez, now a senior advisor to the Collaborative Council, watched the proceedings with a mixture of pride and contemplation. The young species that had once fought for its survival had become a bridge between civilizations, a catalyst for a completely new way of existing. The council chamber itself was a marvel of collaborative design. Adaptive communication interfaces allowed for real-time translation and understanding that went far beyond simple language conversion. Each representative could communicate not just through words, but through complex emotional and contextual exchanges that captured the nuanced essence of their species' perspectives. Jack Rodriguez, now a respected diplomatic strategist, explained the fundamental shift to a group of young researchers. "We discovered something more important than survival," he said. his eyes reflecting decades of experience. We found out what happens when diverse perspectives are not just tolerated, but celebrated. The technologies developed during the Resistance had transformed every aspect of galactic civilization. Communication networks allowed for unprecedented levels of understanding. Collaborative research centers spread across multiple star systems, where species once thought incompatible now worked side by side to solve complex challenges. Dr. Marcus Chen's quantum communication modules had evolved into a living network that connected civilizations across unimaginable distances. What had begun as a defensive technology had become the primary method of interstellar interaction. Species could now share experiences, knowledge, and perspectives in ways that had once seemed impossible. The economic systems that emerged were nothing like the competitive models of the past. Resources were shared, challenges were collective, and innovation was a collaborative pursuit. Species that had once been isolated or in conflict now worked together to address challenges that no single civilization could solve alone. Educational systems had been completely reimagined. Teaching was no longer a linear process confined to a single species or planet. It had become a collaborative, adaptive experience that allowed individuals to understand perspectives from across the galaxy. Dr. Sarah Okoye led a research team that continued to push the boundaries of communication and understanding. The interfaces they developed could capture the most subtle nuances of interaction, bridging gaps between fundamentally different ways of perceiving existence. The planet Earth had transformed as well. No longer isolated, it had become a central hub of collaborative innovation. Research centers, diplomatic facilities, and cultural exchange programs made it a crossroads of galactic potential. The scars of the previous conflict had been replaced by a landscape of hope and possibility. Planetary restoration technologies developed during the Resistance had transformed multiple worlds. Ecosystems once thought beyond repair were now thriving. The adaptive strategies that had been crucial to survival had found peaceful applications that benefited entire civilizations. The Collaborative Council addressed challenges that would have seemed insurmountable in the past. Climate restoration, resource management, exploration of uncharted regions of space. These were now collective pursuits that brought civilizations together. Dr. Rodriguez reflected on the journey during a memorial lecture. "We didn't just survive," she explained to a hall filled with representatives from hundreds of species. "We discovered something far more important. We found out what's possible when we see beyond our differences." The memorial celebrated not just the conflict, but the transformation that had followed. It was a reminder of how close humanity had come to destruction, and how that moment had become the catalyst for a completely new way of existing. Young researchers from multiple species listened with rapt attention. They were the first generation to grow up in this new galactic paradigm, where collaboration was not just a possibility, but the fundamental method of interaction. Space exploration had taken on new meaning. It was no longer about conquest or resource extraction. It had become a collective pursuit of understanding, of discovery, of shared potential. Expeditions now included representatives from multiple species, each bringing unique perspectives to the exploration of the unknown. As the Collaborative Council session concluded, a sense of possibility filled the chamber. The conflicts of the past had been transformed into opportunities for understanding. The differences that had once seemed insurmountable were now celebrated as sources of strength and innovation. Humanity had become more than just a species that had survived. They had become the catalyst for a galactic transformation, a living demonstration of the incredible potential that emerges when diverse perspectives come together. The ultimate battle had transformed into the ultimate opportunity, a chance to reimagine what was possible in the vast, interconnected tapestry of galactic existence.